Yes, hi ladies and gentlemen. This is Ken Bohannon again, in a continuing series on the hip industry and problems related to hips and hip prosthesis and hip revision and hip research, hip pain management, all those things. Today I have been doing, this week I've been doing research in reference to the hip industry, if you will. And so going to different sources online, doing a lot of that. So as I speak to you here, this is all based on sources which I've accessed again online. So some of the sources for this are the Hip Society, various presentations from lawyer groups, National Institute of Health, the Dartmouth Biomedical Center, the World Journal of Surgical Oncology, Science Direct, Biomedical Engineering, medicine.net, FDA.gov/medical devices, and the Journal of Bones and Joint Surgery, and several others, including Dr. Stephen Towner's presentation. He's from the University of Alaska, and he has a few presentations. He's an outlier in the industry because of his criticism of the industry and a criticism of particularly of the industrial side or manufacturing side of the industry. And he's featured on YouTube through Health Watch USA. But a little about the hip industry. It's a $10 billion industry. It's regulated obviously by the FDA, and I use that word somewhat loosely, because sometimes I feel like it's the Wild West out there. The FDA has programs that control the manufacture of these prostheses and put them through clinical trials, and these are called pre-market approvals. They cost about $250,000 to $300,000. Takes up to 2 years, and so it's an expensive process for manufacturers. But once they have that down, then if there are any changes from the original pre-market approval, as long as it's within limits of safety limits and basically meets the standards for what the previous pre-approval prosthesis accomplished, then for all practical purposes it's approved. Those approvals cost around $5,000. So you can see the difference in the 501k program versus the pre-market approval program. So a lot of the manufacturers have used over the years the 501k program. They may have produced a prosthesis that goes back several years, and they produce hybrids. And that way they don't have to pay each time and go through all the clinical trials. So I use the word hybrid. Most of the prosthesis out there in the market today are modular prosthesis, consisting of several metal parts and plastics or ceramics, and cobalt and chromium. So today versus say 30 years ago, back in the 70s and so forth, where you may have had a piece of 3 pieces. I mean, you would have your prosthesis was the utility of it was really good because of the number of pieces being so few. You didn't have to worry about things breaking down over time with the prosthesis as you do today. There are obviously thousands and thousands of revisions going on today because the modular prosthesis just don't hold up. So back in the old days, you would have 3 parts of materials versus today you have 7 parts with materials. There's obviously you can see the distinct difference. And you can go online and you can look at the prosthesis, and you can see the modular prosthesis, and then if you go back you can see the old-fashioned prosthesis. So the industry and surgeon collaboration controls the politics. The public in the politics, when I'm talking about the FDA, this is controlled by, it's actually like you have surgeons who do research and design for the prosthesis, are involved in, manufacturers pay them for their expertise. You have many surgeons that serve on the FDA boards and so forth, so there's like as there are in most industries, it's a back and forth between private and public. So the public, in a final analysis, with millions of people as they age and get on Medicare, they're getting a lot of these prosthesis work done, and it's costing a lot of money. So when you hear about Medicare and Medicare reform, one of the reasons for this is you have 60 million people in Medicare or so, and a lot of the people in Medicare are getting work done because they couldn't afford it prior. So a lot of people wait until they get on Medicare so they can get these things done. At any rate, the public pays for this through Medicare. The Medicare is about $600 billion a year total, but just say for hip prosthesis is probably in the neighborhood of $10 billion. There is a national registry, and so if you have something that doesn't work with your prosthesis, you're going to go through hip revision. A doctor can join a national registry. There's one in the west, central part of the United States, and the east. But most doctors, very few doctors join these registries. So even though the registries exist, the participation rate on these registries is probably 1 to 3%, very low. That's why I say it's like the Wild West for this type of thing. It would be a good thing if you had these registries, because then you can determine which of these parts actually hold up and work over a period of time. Now, it's just like you don't know. You have to do a lot of research and so forth, and because you can't substantiate the total numbers, it's just unknown. So at any rate, there's probably estimated 100,000 revisions a year in the United States. 100,000. And say a median cost of this might be about, who knows, 30 grand. And the total for all these revisions, say for the year, maybe is somewhere between $2 and $3 billion. And this will go on forever, because as people get these revisions, as thousands and thousands of people get a new hip prosthesis, because of the modular nature and the breakdown of these things, they'll have to have hip revisions. So this will go in ad infinitum. There are approximately, say, 30,000 orthopedic surgeons in the United States. The median income say, for an orthopedic surgeon is somewhere around $2 million. The average procedure rate for a urban surgeon doing these procedures may be 20 to 30 per month. At any rate, getting back to the modular nature of the prosthesis, these modular failure rates are within 2 to 5 years, and as much as 20% of the people who've had hip prosthesis will have to have a revision. Right now, there's probably 4 million people at risk for this, and mostly because of the chief nemesis or problem is coming from the trunnion or the neck of the prosthesis. So the trunnion is giving off metal ions, so you're getting cobalt ions, and it becomes systemic, and it attacks, over a long period of time, it attacks all the organs of your body. So it gets in, it can cause all kinds of associated problems. So the quicker you get a revision when you start having problems, the better. Older prostheses go back to the 70s, what was called the Charnley, and it was a metal, stainless steel metal in cemented plastic. It had a stainless steel stem and ball, and then a cemented plastic cup. And there was much less failure. There were 25 years longevity with these, and usually it was acetabular loosening, where they'd have to go and do revisions. The American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons has a revolving and collaborating door with industrial controlled research and grants and the FDA's acquiescence. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever the case may be, the fact of the matter is the research, if you do the research and you go in and you see who these people are and how you have this revolving door going on, it's happening. And again, it doesn't, the criticism isn't just with the hip industry. It goes throughout the medical industry for whatever the specialty is, and it's in all other industries. So and you hear about it all the time. The modular nature of these things, you have problems with the prosthesis. So you have loosening, you have cobaltism, you have cobalt poisoning. As I said, its toxicity is systemic. The cobalt ions move throughout all your organs, your nerves, your ligaments, your tendons, your muscles, and everything's impacted. And typically, you get pseudotumors, you get pressing on your nerves, and it causes extreme pain. So again, revision surgery, it's going to happen. To those of you out there right now that are considering it, I suggest again that you do your research and you find out really what's going on. There are tests. You get blood tests for metals. Well, you should get a blood test for metals prior to your surgery. How often this happens, there's no way of knowing. But the fact of the matter is, millions of people are allergic to certain metals. So if you know that the metal is going to shred or peel off, or there are going to be ions coming off the trunnion, for example, in these modular units, and the surgeons know that this is the case, then you would think that they would do a metals test prior to surgery. So you can do this with blood and urine tests for metals. If you've been under this situation for a while, then you're probably going to be recommended to get an EKG. And before you get operated on a revision, you'll have a hip aspiration to determine if you have any infection. You have to be treated for it. And then obviously you have a Mars MRI. So the Mars MRI is another test, which is the best test out there for imaging, determining the problems associated with your prosthesis. So the recommendations are disclosure relationships between and among governing bodies, public and private, increased regulation, and innovation based on longevity and the safety of the prosthesis. So maybe somewhere down the road, these prostheses and these different manufacturers will move in a direction of major improvements in these prostheses. It will save the public millions and millions and billions of dollars, and people won't have to go through these revision surgeries all the time. So these types of things need to be happening, and it's a political situation again, and frankly most people just aren't aware of the problem. And as with most politics, out of sight, out of mind. So if you're a candidate for hip revision or a candidate for hip prosthesis. It's good to do your research and find out about what's going on, the type of prosthesis which will be put into your body. And so get out there, do the research, study it, and I think you'll feel better about going into this operation once you do that. This is Ken Bohannon signing off. Have a great day, have a great evening.